Namaskaram. My name is Lukas Loftman. When I was in my mother's womb, there was a car accident. This car accident had damaged the amniotic sac that I was in, tearing it open, draining almost all of the amniotic fluid, in addition to completely tearing off one of the fallopian tubes and severely damaging the other. As a result, I was very malnourished within the womb, and I almost didn't have lungs. This was only at the 3-month mark, so you can imagine how terrified both my parents were. But through a lot of work on my parents' part, a lot of determination and willpower, and by some medical miracle, I managed to survive. By the time I was 7, I was diagnosed with autism and sensory processing disorder. My tongue was so sensitive as a child that I would vomit up most foods that my parents tried to give me. So I was very hungry growing up, very hungry. That was hard. What was also really hard was temperature. Things very easily could feel way, way, way too hot, and just warm bath water sometimes would feel like I was being burned alive. If I went swimming in a pool out in the summertime, my lips would literally turn blue and I would shiver and shake. My body would react as if I was going into hypothermia. Countless different very mundane situations felt like life or death when I was growing up. In addition to all that, being autistic, I didn't really understand social cues too well. As a result, I was bullied pretty heavily for it. And again, that was hard. By the time I was 13 years old, I was diagnosed with depression, anxiety, I was suicidal, post-traumatic stress disorder from the bullying that I was going through at school. You can imagine how bad it had to be for me to get diagnosed with PTSD. I was also diagnosed with ADHD. And I went to all sorts of different therapies and got put on several different medications. At one point I was on 5 different medications. Even that wasn't enough. I was so exhausted all the time. In order to get through high school, I was downing energy drinks in addition to the stimulant medications that I was on. I was having night terrors almost every night. Life was really hard. And then I discovered this South Indian monk, a yogi by the name of Sadhguru. And I started looking into yoga that he was teaching. I didn't really get yoga at the time. I thought it was just something white girls did, like Pilates. I didn't really understand it at all. I thought it was just stretching. But this monk taught me how all meditative practices can be actually traced back to yoga and the yogi monks in India. And I kind of became really fascinated with the history and the stories that surrounded it, and especially a lot of the pragmaticism that he taught it with. He has a very basic philosophy when it comes to health, which is if a disease comes from the outside, then it needs outside help. Medicine, doctors, all that. But if a disease comes from the inside, then it needs to be worked out from the inside. Ultimately, the body is what cures itself from within. And it made a lot of sense to me, especially because most of the outside help I was getting didn't do a whole lot. I was still really depressed. I was still really suicidal. I was still severely anxious. It was just that I was kind of functioning throughout to get through school. But I didn't really take a whole lot of it too seriously. I wasn't really that into it, I was still focused on a whole lot of other stuff. So I went off to college a couple years later, and things were really bad then. I was sleeping 13 to 16 hours a day. I was smoking enormous amounts of medical marijuana. Uh, Basically, all my medication had stopped working. And then I just kind of decided, maybe I should really give this yoga stuff a try. So I did. And within a matter of like 6 to 8 months of me taking it pretty seriously, I saw huge changes within myself. And so did my family. I was becoming a lot more calm, a lot more stable. I was getting less angry. I was so angry. I was angry at the world. I was angry at myself. And things were just calming down. I was calming down. Then fast forward a couple years, I decided to take inner engineering. When that was going on, I had just this incredible transformative experience. And within that one day that I was initiated into this program, 50 to 70% of the conditions that were left over just like vanished. And what I had severely went down over the course of the next 2 years. It was really amazing. I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it, to be honest with you. So to put this in real perspective, by the time I was 16 years old, I had been diagnosed with 14 different conditions. I'm going to say that again. By the time I was 16 years old, I had 14 different chronic conditions, mental and physical. And after about a year and a half, I didn't need the medication that I was on anymore. I stopped taking medical marijuana. And then after taking the inner engineering, I had only 3 conditions left that were really impacting me, which is ADHD, autism, and sensory processing disorder, all of which I'm dealing with maybe an 80% reduction. So I'm dealing with 10 to 20% of what I used to. To call this life-changing would be to undersell it. Around the same time when I was 23 years old, I had gotten really into Wim Hof method. And Wim Hof method was incredibly impactful because of my huge sensitivity to the cold. As I said, when I was a kid, going out in the summer, I would be reacting as if I was going into hypothermia. Slowly, as I started doing it, I could handle the cold more. And then I started to be able to take cold showers. And now at this point, I can take ice baths and I can walk in the snow barefoot with zero feeling of being cold. Not only do I feel warm, I am warm. It's really, I can't believe the transformation that has happened and how much better I feel. So I had a number of friends and family members and different people that I would know and talk to, and they kept telling me that I need to start teaching myself. And so I've opened up my own practice. I've opened up my own teaching studio. I've called it Blue Aura Yoga. If you want to check it out, I have a website for it. And I've also taken to trying to release mantras or meditative music and chants, and that's available to listen to. I'm going to try and come out with these videos once every week or two. Sometimes I might be a little late, but I'm going to be releasing them on Wednesdays each time. So I really hope that if my story resonates with you, that you look into more of my content and that you look into the teachings that I have to offer. And if you think that what I have to offer might help you, then I hope you take me up on that. So thank you so much for watching, and have a blessed day. Namaskaram.